I'm in there.
Baby. What's up, man? We live. This is our is this our second episode of 2023? This would be number 2, right?
It is.
Not
it
number
is,
1.
It is.
Yep.
It'll be number 2. But we have, obviously, Zay is great. We have he's basically a part of the podcast. He's here on so much.
For real.
But I got my but I got my boy Swan Don back after a short recess. But he's back and ready to kind of get things smoking. It's a lot of great sports topics. But Swan, man, how you been? What's going on?
Been all right, man. Just trying
life?
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Just trying to keep on trucking. But as you mentioned, man, we got a lot of good sports topics to get to. I'm really excited to hear you guys' views on these NFL playoff matchups and who you see coming out with these victories on a Wildcard weekend. So, yeah, man, let's do it, man. I'm happy to be back. I'm excited about this episode, man. Let's get to it.
100%. Zay, you good? What's going on, brother?
I'm good. I'm happy to be back. Of course, I know we got some interest. So I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
Silent partner number 2, right?
Yeah.
Literally silent partner number 2. Okay, so let's jump into the intro, man, and let's get to it.
Hey Kenny, we gonna have to get a little animated version of Zay, and you know what I'm saying? Throw that,
throw him in there. Hey, you know what it's gonna be like. And Zay, this might be before your time. You want to know what my favorite pastime is as a kid?
What?
Watching the Power Rangers, and every season they get that extra ranger that joins the team. And they add that motherfucker to the intro. Hey, you remember they add that motherfucker to the intro change.
Bro, he gonna be the Green Ranger or the White Ranger, bro. He gonna come with his little joint.
Yeah, they got a whole new intro montage and everything. That'll be Zay.
Seriously,
right?
For real.
So yeah. But man, like I said, lot of good stuff to get to today. We'll just go ahead and you guys, I had to get him a pep talk ahead of time. I said, please don't keep me here for 15, 20, 30 minutes talking about this national championship. Because God, man, anybody that follows me on social media sees what I posted yesterday, man. I was about done. I typed in, I was watching Justice League last night. That's how tapped out I was. I said, man, I ain't about to watch this game. So, I'll let you start, Swan, since you're back. Quick thoughts on the national championship, positives and negatives.
Well, as I mentioned to you guys in our little group chat, my Notre Dame never got beat like this. Okay. Like this was just, it was real. It really almost looked like an NFL team playing against like a collegiate team. It was crazy. I expected a much closer bout. I did think Georgia would win, but I thought TCU would put up a fight. Maybe Georgia pulls away in the fourth, but to see what we got yesterday, man, I tell you what though, it does kind of excite me now for the possibility of this 12-team playoff that could be coming here. I think in a couple years, maybe.
Yes.
So it does kind of excite me at the possibility of a 12-team playoff. But yeah, man, it was really just men out there playing amongst boys. Stetson Bennett did his thing. I think he threw for over 300. He had
literally a man playing against boys.
Exactly. Yeah, right. He's like 25.
I was about to say, I think I graduated with Stetson Bennett,
bro. But yeah, I think he threw for over 300. Six total TDs. Brock Bowers. I really wish that kid could just go ahead and get in the draft now because it's really unfair.
Is he a sophomore?
He's a sophomore.
Yeah, I had to ask that. I had to ask that myself yesterday because I mean the kid's unbelievable, man. He's going up. Kid's unbelievable, man. And yeah, that's basically it. That's really all you can say. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's an unfortunate way for Max Duggan to end his career because I don't think he's coming back next year. So unfortunate way for him to end his career. I mean, we'll see what happens next year. And then Georgia's already the early favorites to repeat next year, man. So I think that'll be the challenge, just them going for 3 national championships in a row. But yeah, man, I mean, it's not much to say about this, man. Shout out to TCU, great year, but you ran up against a monster.
A buzzsaw, for sure. I'll just say this. Georgia is absolutely phenomenal. And who knows how long this run, and let's be clear. Over the last 18 to 19 months, going on 2 years, 24 months, Georgia has been the class of college football, and they are slowly, I shouldn't say slowly. They are quickly taking the reins, if not already, from Alabama as the king of college football. And I know some people had a problem with them running up the score. I don't think Kirby Smart did that in a slight to TCU or to Sonny Dykes. I thought that was more of a statement to the rest of the country and more so Alabama. Like,
this is what we are.
We're top dogs, literally.
The backup scored a couple times. Like, it wasn't even like, you know what I'm saying? The backups were coming in and moving the ball. So
that's the thing. Like, they went for it on 4th and 5, and they were just dominant with backups. So it's like, it's not my fault. You can't stop our backups. Exactly. And that just shows you the gap between these two squads that was last night. So Georgia, you mentioned Brock Bowers. I was surprised that they don't incorporate him at all. And like, he was the focal point of the offense last night, as he should, because he was the best player on the field. But Georgia, on a regular basis, they don't look to get him early touches. They don't initiate the offense around him. And he's that good where you can. He's unstoppable.
Is he a redshirt sophomore? He has to be a redshirt.
I think he's a redshirt sophomore.
Oh, I'm about to say he has to be.
But the dude is incredible. And I'll just say this lastly. I know some people gonna be like, this is why we didn't want TCU to be in the playoff. And I'm like,
I'm glad you mentioned that.
We have a thing in sports, and we're gonna talk about it more because I think we're gonna see some outcomes this weekend that's gonna deter us and make us think about a certain team a certain way depending on how the season ends. But we do this thing in sports with, like, depending on how the season ends, we just totally forget about how good of a season a particular team had. And like, everybody's like, oh, TCU shouldn't have been there. This is why we won Alabama, and TCU, they just can't compete. It's like, no, TCU deserved to be there. They went 12-0 throughout the regular season. They didn't win their conference championship, but they had the most top 25 college playoff wins out of any team in the country. They beat Michigan in the semifinal. I just think they saw. And honestly, like I said last week, I said if TCU was to play Michigan 10 more times, Michigan will probably win 7 more
9.
times. They will win 7, 8 out of those next 10 times. But it's just that one time where TCU just got the best of Michigan. They played their best game, and Michigan played their worst game. In this, you talk about it like, hey, the 12-team playoff will probably create a scenario like this where there is an unforeseen upset. And we have like somewhat of a Cinderella story. You know what I mean? Like, we see it in Madness. So I'm not going to be surprised if we see it with this 12-team college playoff where an unforeseen early round matchup and a team just plays their absolute best football on that given day. But if they were to line it up again, like if Georgia was to play TCU again 10 more times, they'll probably beat TCU.
But it wouldn't be like this.
9 times, but it won't be like this. And I think it's that one time where we got that one time where Georgia just put the absolute beat down on TCU.
To quote Stetson Bennett real quick, yesterday was, as he said, brutal, stone cold execution. They executed in all facets of the game perfectly. And I'm not sure you can dispute the amount or the difference, the score,
Right.
but I'm not sure any team in the nation would have beaten them last night the way they executed.
No team no team would have beaten Georgia at their best, and that's why they're like, it's clear that they're the best team in the country.
Yep.
And I'll say this. First of all, just to show how lopsided this thing was, TCU had 9 first downs in the entire game. Georgia had 32. TCU had 188 total yards. Georgia had 589. TCU had 36 yards rushing. Georgia had 254. And then obviously TCU had 3 turnovers and Georgia had none. And then time of possession was completely lopsided. Georgia 36-59 and TCU 23-01. I don't think that Georgia is 65-7. I don't think that they're that much better than TCU. I think that they're the best team in college football. Mm-hmm. I just think TCU blew their load against Michigan. That's the phrase. I love using that phrase because it's the truth. I think they gave Michigan their best game. And when it came time to play against
their national championship,
that was their championship. And when it came time to play easily a more talented team and a more physical team, they weren't able to show up. And honestly, I can kind of tell it kind of coming up to the game, because when you saw TCU coming up against Michigan, when they played Michigan, it was a statement. When they played Georgia, it was kind of like, it was almost like they knew they were,
We're happy to be here.
And I'm gonna tell you this. I guess for me, I was just like, dang, I don't feel like Sonny Dykes has the same type of energy he had when he was coming into that Michigan game. When he was coming to that Michigan game, he was like, this. But against Georgia, you said what?
I was gonna tell you this. So I was listening to Joel Clapp, and Clapp said he went to the game and he compared it to, like, how championship games, there's a lot of tension. And teams and players, there's evident tension. He said he saw none of that, and he was like, TCU just looked like they were just like, we're okay being here. But in terms of like actually beating Georgia, it was like, no. And Georgia was looking at TCU like,
we're about to beat the snot out.
We about to fight before with you guys. So it was like there was no tension. You know how like there's tension.
Yeah, because you understand what's on the line,
right? And TCU was just like,
we're just happy to be here.
And a lot of people didn't expect them to beat Michigan in the first place,
right?
So they exerted all of that for Michigan, and then it's like when they got to Georgia, then it's like, all right, well, we proved our worth, But I do have a question for you guys before we move on. I do have a quick question for you guys, because all of us have been a little critical of the lore of the SEC. Does Georgia winning back-to-back national championships, does this, guys, make you feel any differently as far as the SEC just being far and away the best conference in America? Does this make you feel any differently?
Go ahead, Kenny.
No, it's Alabama and Georgia. It doesn't make me feel any different about the SEC. As a matter of fact, I have a fair argument as to say that Georgia and TCU both messed up the plan. They didn't stick to the plan that the college football world was trying to lay out. And the truth is, I really, in my heart of heart, believes that the college football world wanted to see Michigan and Ohio State playing a national championship.
Oh yeah,
and they ruined it. And they ruined it. Georgia ruined it. Well, honestly, Ohio State ruined it because they couldn't make that kick. And right. TCU, they beat Michigan, and nobody expected that. So we didn't see the game we were supposed to see. We were supposed to see Ohio State and Michigan, and we can all say the Big Ten is college football's highest gross, and they make more money and more revenue from the Big Ten than they do from the SEC. So I don't think,
I agree. It is the SEC is top heavy as hell. It's top heavy.
Yeah.
But if you look at a conference like the Pac-12 this year, and we were kind of down on the Pac-12 coming into the year for rightfully so. But the Pac-12 had a lot of quality teams, and throughout the SEC, I mean, granted, you have obviously the top dogs in Georgia and Alabama, but then I think once you get past Georgia and Alabama, there's a gap. There's a gap between whoever you think the next best program or team is. And I like some of the programs and coaches that's in the SEC. Like I like Brian Kelly and LSU. I like Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, but there is a clear disparity between Georgia and LSU, in Georgia, and Tennessee. As we saw, Georgia put the beat down on Tennessee. Tennessee, like that's the thing. If you talk about sticking to the plan, if Tennessee doesn't lose to South Carolina, Tennessee is in the playoff. They're in the playoff, and that's the same Tennessee team that got that was bludgeoned by Georgia. So when I hear SEC apologists and support people in SEC, that support the SEC, I'm like, even if it was Tennessee still wouldn't match up with Georgia. And granted, y'all mentioned Alabama, but Alabama this year, they clearly weren't the best 4 teams because we saw what they put out on their resume. And then Georgia at their best is the best team in college football. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah.
Right now, it's just Georgia, and what Kirby Smart is building is absolutely terrific.
Word. Shout out to Kirby Smart, man.
So yeah, my SEC fans, I don't want to hear none of that bullshit. Stop trying to ride off Georgia and Alabama's fame. That's their success. That's
right.
not Arkansas. That's not Vanderbilt.
Auburn.
That's not y'all success. Auburn. Don't get me started on Auburn. God created them just to mess up the standings. That's literally their only purpose in life. They'll mess up the standings and lose. That's what Auburn's for. But yeah, I can go on and on about the SEC. But once again, congratulations, Georgia. And you know what? I think we have to really kind of give them their flowers because for the longest, Georgia was the team that couldn't win it, and Kirby Smart had to look up at Nick Saban for years. I want to say for the better part of 10, 15 years, they couldn't beat them.
Yeah.
So
we all remember a few years back the Tua game. The game Tua comes in and he hits Devontae Smith for the game.
They should have won that game.
They should have. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and that Georgia team has some studs.
Yeah.
Roquan Smith was on that Georgia team.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So but yeah.
Hey, look, not being funny. I think Stetson Bennett was still there.
Hey, low key.
While we playing, I think he was there.
Hey, he might have been there. Stetson Bennett's a 6-year senior, right?
Woo. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so Stetson Bennett was there.
Lord,
and that's what Kirk was it. Kirby Kirk Herbstreit was talking about it. He was saying he was like, this man's been told he wasn't good enough, even by Georgia, the Georgia coaches themselves. And then now they turn around and this man had won 2 national championships for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty funny. But like I said, that's football. It is wrapped up. We look forward to recruiting in the upcoming months, and we'll follow up on that. But it's time to get to the meat and potatoes, because we got wild card weekend. I see Zay rub his hands together. Super. Let me correct myself. Super wild card weekend. Got to put the S on it. And man, we got some good fucking games. Like some good fucking games.
I don't know where you want to start. I don't know which one.
You know what?
Start with.
Let's go ahead and you know what? Let's go to order they're playing here. So let's go Saturday. We got to obviously talk a little bit and add some context to these matchups. Let's go to Saturday matchups, and then we'll jump into the Sunday matchups, and obviously we'll end up on the Monday matchup with the Cowboys Bucks. So the first game that will be played 4:30 p.m. Eastern time is the Seahawks 49ers. And I think maybe our people are under the impression that this game is unwinnable for the Seahawks. I hope people maybe didn't. Maybe you don't forget about the last game where the 49ers won 21-13, and it took a turnover to kind of help them pull away and come out and win that football game. But I don't know, man. I think it's going to be more competitive than what people think it's going to be. What do you guys think?
I 100% agree with you. And then anytime you have two division rivals playing each other in the playoffs, that alone, that for the third time this year, that alone is going to bring an added level of competitiveness to this game. So, yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a really close game. Also, something to look out for. And I think on paper, obviously, we look at the San Francisco 49ers. All the analysts have just been crazy about them. Obviously, on paper, San Francisco 49ers are, far and away the better team. But I think one possibly overlooked aspect is the fact that this would be, Brock Purdy's first game under center in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? So we got to really consider exactly how he's going to be able to handle playoff, football. I think one of the things that has kind of hindered San Francisco has been the quarterback play, and no jab at Garoppolo. You know what I'm saying? He's been really solid. He's gotten them to a Super Bowl. But I mean, ultimately, you can say in that Super Bowl, he missed a throw that ultimately could have won him a Super Bowl. Missing Emmanuel Sanders. So that's kind of been the big thing with San Francisco is their quarterback play. So it'll be interesting to see how Brock Purdy really comes out and how he's able to handle that playoff pressure. And then on Seattle's side, Geno Smith, as great a season as he had, toward the end of the year, maybe the last 3-4 weeks of the season, you started to see him kind of regress just a tad.
Right.
So, ultimately, even Sunday, he didn't play his best game against a LA Rams team that they probably should have just, destroyed. But he was able to do just enough for them to pick up the win in overtime and ultimately help them get into the playoffs. But it'll be interesting to see, with this added pressure of playoff football, it'll be interesting to see exactly how Geno Smith handles it. I think Pete Carroll's going to coach them up, though. I think he's going to have them ready to go. I do not see a blowout here. I think this is going to be a very close, very competitive game. I actually think Geno Smith probably outplays Brock Purdy. But I just think ultimately San Francisco just has a little too much talent. They have a few too many playmakers. I'm not sure. I believe Debo will be back for the playoffs. I'm not quite sure, but maybe
he was back last week.
Okay, he played. Okay,
he was back. He was back last week. Yeah.
So yeah, I think they just got one too many playmakers, and ultimately that's what's going to make the difference in this game for me. Just the playmakers that San Francisco has on their side. So in a very competitive game, I could see a 23-17 game, but I'm going to go with San Francisco to pull it out.
What you guys say?
So it's similar to what I said about the TCU, the Horned Frogs. In sports, we have this weird way of just however the season ends, we just think, hey, it was a bad season for the Horned Frogs. With the Seahawks, and I agree with a lot what you said, Ira. I think this game has the potential to be close, and I think it will start out close. I do think the 49ers at some point will hit another gear, and that will extend and stretch the lead. So you had them winning by 6. I think I'm going to have the Niners winning by 10 or 14 points. I mean, 2 scores. And ultimately, I think they'll be able. The Seahawks, they've been struggling. They've been kind of limping across the finish line these last few weeks. And if you look at Geno Smith's quarterback numbers since Thanksgiving, after Thanksgiving, he hasn't played bad, but it isn't to the same par and level we were seeing the first 8-9 weeks where we were like, oh, Geno Smith looks really, really good. We were surprised. So I think the 49ers, they're going to have just too much. They're too good. They're too talented. Kenny, I'm high on this 49ers team. This would be a good test.
And he isn't so high on them.
I know. And we get it. We talk about it a lot, but I know. But this would be it's now. I will say this: it's hard to beat a team 3 times.
It's tough.
It's hard to beat a team 3 times.
It's tough.
And I think like I said, nothing's going to make me backtrack. And I don't think this is going to be just like a landslide. But I do think Niners will win by 10 or 14 points. They'll break away. But Seattle will keep it close. I think their coaching and their culture will keep it close with the Niners, but the Niners ultimately have too much talent. And I just want people, like, whatever happens, don't let, like, Seattle had a really good overachieving year. It was a good story. Like, don't, whatever the result is, if the 49ers come out and just crush them, don't, like, make it soon, oh, the Seahawks are bad. Like, no, they had a really good story. You got a comeback player in the year and Geno Smith.
Oh, yeah.
Pete Carroll did one of the better coaching jobs in this league this year. They hit on the draft. Like, this is a good year for the Seahawks, no matter how it ends.
Agreed.
So okay, and I agree. I think you have to view
It's
this
so
year.
Hard for Kenny.
No, it's not hard. I think you have to view the Seahawks this year, and you have to kind of view them the same way you viewed Philly last year, where it's a team in a rebuild that surprisingly was able to make the playoffs, but at the same time, it gives them a great foundation moving forward.
Rebuild went a little quicker than they anticipated.
Exactly. One thing I will say heading into this game, I could see the 49ers pulling away towards the end. I think they've had a lot of games where it was deadlocked, and maybe like the last 8 minutes of the game, they might pull away and get it. That's what happened. That's what happens with the 49ers. So it looks like, they went in there and beat them convincingly, but really it was close all game. But okay, right. But I say all that to say, the 49ers are the more talented team, and the Seahawks do have a lot of question marks. The only plus I will give them, this is one thing I will completely stand on, and I have people fight me on this, they have the better coach. I think if you give Kyle Shanahan this team, I think they might win 4 games. But Pete Carroll's definitely the better coach, but he just doesn't have enough talent at his disposal on either side of the ball, I think, to be the difference maker. But I could see them making plays to keep it interesting. First of all, Quandre Diggs is playing his ass off.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people, like, he's kind of flown under the radar and it's been consistently one of the better safeties in the National Football League. He's a Pro Bowler this year.
Oh, okay. I thought he got snubbed. Okay.
No. He made it. He made it. Him, Tariq Woolen. They have so they have some Pro Bowl talent players. See, hopefully Geno Smith can come out and really have one of his signature games that we've seen from him earlier in the season. And once again, I'm gonna lean towards the 49ers because of the talent. I'm just letting people know, based off of some of the players that they do have and the coaching aspect, don't rule out that this could be a real game. I'll just leave it at that. But I'll go the 49ers to be safe.
So I think we all in agreement. 49ers do pull us out.
Isaiah thinks I hate them. I don't.
It was tough for you. You know, it was tough for you. You wanted to find a reason.
I don't hate them. I'm just a resume guy. I just don't.
No, Ira. Watch as they continue to win playoff games. It's gonna get harder and harder and harder. And if they find themselves in the Super Bowl, who knows? I don't know. Maybe they're good enough.
I'm gonna say something at the end that may shock people, but we'll get there.
Okay.
When we get to our last game.
Okay. All right. I want to hear this. All
right. So, Chargers, Jaguars. First of all, this is the game I'm fucking looking forward towards. Because I'm gonna say something and I'm gonna give it to Ira. About 3 years ago, or 2.5, you got the pre-draft process, and somebody said something that was very disrespectful. And now you look up and you're like, man, that shit was kind of wild. They said Justin Herbert is a poor man's Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence was still in college.
Oh,
and now you look up. Oh yeah, that was said. Yeah. And now you look up, and I mean, I hate to say it, as good as Trevor Lawrence has played, Justin Herbert is otherworldly. and he's done things with less. Like, to tell you the truth, I think he really put his big boy pants on this year. The fact that they made the playoffs, you saw some games that he literally showed that he was worth his salt. But this game is going to be fun because I love the dynamic of the two quarterbacks, two young teams who have a lot of talent. But I think this is literally going to be the funnest game probably of the entire wild card weekend. But what do you guys think? Ira, you take it.
I agree. I think this is if I was to pick a game to really tune into that I think is going to be pretty high flying, high scoring. This will probably be it for me. Two really great young quarterbacks in this league. Couple things though. This game is going to be played in Jacksonville.
Yep.
So I think that's something to take into account here. Another thing, I believe so far they've been saying that Mike Williams will be playing for the Chargers, but I think it'll be interesting to see if he's at 100% because
what capacity?
Because according to them, it was a pretty substantial injury. I think it was the back, but it'll be interesting to see if he's at 100%. But he is supposed to play. I do think this will be a very high scoring affair. I think these guys are going to go at it. But I think I think the Chargers are probably favored. But I'm not going to lie. I think this will probably be my upset pick for the weekend because I think the Jaguars can get it done. And I'm going to pick the Jaguars at home. I think they'll feed off the crowd. I think Trevor Lawrence, he's going to have a pretty solid day against this Charger defense. Has really been inconsistent. You know, sometimes you get a good game from them. Sometimes it's like, what's going on there? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, I think the Jags, I think we get a solid game from Etienne. I think Trevor Lawrence really shows why he was the number one pick. I think Justin Herbert has a great game, but ultimately I just think they rally around the home crowd. And this is my upset pick of the weekend because I'm gonna go with the Jags here. I think this is a high scoring affair though. So I'll say maybe I'll give it maybe a 35-31. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Jags here, man.
Okay. I must say this is probably gonna be the best hair matchup too. Between the two quarterbacks.
Facts.
So here's the thing. You mentioned it, Ira. Jacksonville's at home, and I watched the Saturday night game this past week versus Tennessee, and that crowd was rocking.
Yeah.
So when people was like, "Oh, the Jacksonville,"
and I remember a time when Jacksonville, when they couldn't fill up a seat in that thing,
they couldn't fill up a seat, but they had the crowd rocking and jumping. They loved the culture. Doug Peterson, once again, a great coaching job, one of the better coaching jobs this year. I'm leaning towards the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it's funny Kenny brought up the dynamic between the two quarterbacks because that was the thing. It was like we looked at Trevor Lawrence. They brought Trevor Lawrence
they're this around the same height.
They're similar frames, similar skill sets. Like both can move, both can get mobile, but they don't rely on that. They're like pure pocket passers with strong arms, and that was the case. Like they were like, and I admit to it. I said it. I was like, Justin Herbert, he's a poor man's Trevor Lawrence, and it's like you look back at that age now. It's like Trevor Lawrence might be a poor man's
Justin Herbert. Yes,
it's funny. It's so funny.
But nobody in your defense though.
Yeah, nobody
seen him at Oregon. Nobody thought Justin. I mean, okay, thought, okay, hey, he's an NFL quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He's probably a starter, but nobody's seen this until that. I think it was the game. Tyrod Taylor got hurt. They slip him in. I think against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and all of a sudden he's slinging it.
Yeah,
and it's like, wait a minute. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Nobody really seen this.
I will say this: I have two coaches that I think like we have coaches being fired already. But like a couple weeks ago on my podcast, I was talking about Sean Payton and ideal fits and locations for him. And there's two coaches that I think are on the hot seat this weekend. Funny. One of the two coaches is Brandon Staley. I get to the other coach when we get to the other game. But one of the coaches is Brandon Staley. I know some people, I'm in between with a brand. Like I like Brandon Staley, but he gives me the feel he's a young guy. He's a really, really young coach. You just look at all of it, like throughout, like his coaching resume, it's not truly extensive. Like he got a couple stops before the Rams job, then got the Rams DC job, defense coordinator of the Rams, and then he got this job. So it's like he's really just learning on the fly, and you can see that at times. And I thought this last week of the regular season, he mismanaged like how long he should have played his starters.
Oh, it shouldn't have been long. Yeah,
he totally mismanaged that. And I'm not saying don't play him, but to what extent do you play? Like them going further into the fourth, that was a total misassignment. So I think if the Chargers lose this game, if we turn out me and Ira prediction, I don't know what Kenny's prediction is, but I'm picking the Jaguars. I agree. I think this is going to be a high flying score. Fair. I'm gonna go 34-30. But if Staley loses this game, I would not be surprised by the slightest bit if Tom Telesco and that ownership, if they fired Staley and try to get like
Sean Payton, that perfect situation.
I thought that would be the ideal fit, and I thought maybe Staley saved his job by getting into the playoffs. But I'm like, I still think he's on the hook. I think he has to win a playoff game with as good of a roster as this Chargers team has built. And Tom,
they gave him what he needed.
They got what you need. And as you said, my pet peeve: you're a defensive-minded coach. Why in the hell is your defense up and down? You got to figure it out. There should be some type of consistency. But I got the Jags winning this game.
I'm going to take the Jags as well, and it's going to be for a coach that, surprisingly, if many don't know, I've always admired. Dougie is fucking great to me.
Amazing.
Doug Peterson, I mean, the guy won the Super Bowl his second year in Philly. His second year as a head coach, he won a Super Bowl chip, and did it in convincing fashion, in fearless fashion against the great Bill Belichick. And what he's done in Jacksonville has been nothing short of extraordinary. I have to call people out because I see on sports media a lot of people anointing Trevor Lawrence, and the truth is Trevor Lawrence has picked up his play, but people are trying to put him back in that class of quarterback that doesn't need guys around him. He does. He was never in that Andrew Luck, John Elway. That's not who Trevor Lawrence is. Trevor Lawrence is a very talented young quarterback that needs talent around him. And Doug Peterson, what they did in free agency, what he's done with that scheme, taking advantage of Christian Kirk. He's unlocked Evan Ingram's potential. Evan Ingram looks like an actual Pro Bowler now.
He does.
Zay Jones is entering his prime. You got the older statesman Marvin Jones Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's found a way to really connect this complete cast. Etienne had a 1,000-yard season, so that is really on Doug Peterson and really just how he's been able to implement his scheme. He stayed the course even when they were playing terrible. He never panicked. And now you're seeing this team really have the confidence. Like, yo, when I watched them in that Tennessee game, they were like, man, yo, we're winning this thing. And the offense had an off day, but defensively they stepped up.
And I was going to say, go ahead. Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, this is a very young, talented team. They're young. They have a lot of guys on first contracts.
Oh, so, yeah, their best days are definitely ahead of them. It's only up from here.
Like, they're all young. Christian Kirk is just entering his prime. He's 25, 26, right? You know, let's go on the defensive side of the ball. Trayvon Walker, rookie. Josh Allen still in his rookie contract.
Still in his first.
It's still in his first deal. Devin Lloyd, rookie, right? You got the safeties. Rayshawn Jenkins, I think he's in his rookie. He's still in his rookie deal. You know, they have so much young talent put together and a strong nucleus and I think a really great head coach. I just think this is a coaching mismatch. Don't be surprised if you see Doug Peterson jump into his bag, throw a lot of screens, you know, throw a lot of different. He gonna move Christian Kirk around. Don't be surprised if Evan Ingram has a big day. I just think this could actually get ugly. Like, we're saying 6-7 points. I could see them winning by 14 points or more. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to go Jacksonville. I'm going to go 34-14.
Yeah.
Wow. And I was just going to say
34-14. Okay.
That's a blowout. That's 20.
Yeah.
I was just going to say Jacksonville didn't even play well. Like they're offensively, they just weren't on beat. Trevor missed some throws that I know he can make, but he just missed them for whatever reason. But I'm glad you mentioned the coaching aspect, and that's why I said, hey, Staley, I think Staley is still on the hook. Because there's some people that's like, I don't really know about that guy. And you mentioned it. I'm paying attention. Doug Peterson, Brandon Staley. Give me Doug Peterson. He's a Super Bowl winning coach. He has a really young roster. I'm not gonna say this team is similarly built to those Philly teams. That first couple years, Philly team.
He has the quarterback.
It's damn close, and he has the quarterback play. I would say a better quarterback talent. With Lawrence, so I would not be surprised. But I think I think Herbert, he's gonna play Superman and be the Chargers' saving grace as much as he can.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jacksonville still wins it though.
Yeah, me too, man. And I think you hit it on the nail. They got so much young talent, Kenny, that they're gonna be good for years to come. And I think that, yeah, I'll say this: they're probably the only team in that division without any real questions heading into the future. Like they know who they are. They got their guys in all their most important positions, and their trajectory is probably the only team in that division that you can say, hey, their trajectory is absolutely
Upwards.
going up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. I absolutely agree. So I think we're all in agreement. It's probably going to be Jacksonville. You know, everybody's going to take Jacksonville here. It's not that, and let's not get too down on the Chargers. I think they're just a team right now. They made it off the strength of Justin Herbert being great. For most of this year, even though they've actually improved, they started to get guys back. The Chargers defensively were god awful. They were atrocious. And then offensively, they were really banged up, which made Brandon Staley playing Mike Williams, Keenan Allen sometime in the last game. It made it very questionable because you haven't had these guys for most of the year. Why would you put them in harm's way when you know you need playoffs?
Mike Williams ultimately gets dinged up.
Exactly. Right. So it just a lot of, questionable decision making, bad defensive play. And here's the thing, even outside of Justin Herbert being great, they have some continuity issues on offense. It's not a very fluid offense.
No.
It's really it has a lot of hiccups. But
maybe some of the injuries to that receiving core may have had something to do with that, because Keenan Allen missed some time, Mike Williams missed some time. I just think for them, they need a new voice. I just don't think Brandon Staley's the guy. Can you imagine? Like, and Zay mentioned this when he first mentioned it in the chat. It was like a light bulb went off in my head. Like, Sean Payton would be like the perfect guy for this team, because it'll almost be like New Orleans 2.0. You got your quarterback there. You know what I'm saying?
A better quarterback talent.
Yeah. Probably, a stronger arm and everything. You got Eckler, who's like just like Alvin Kamara.
Machine.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You got two really good wide receivers, you know what I'm saying, and Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I mean, it'll look really similar to that New Orleans team.
And imagine Vic Fangio coaching the defense.
And Vic,
because wherever he goes, he's taking Vic Fangio with him. If you guys didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. And I was just gonna say, lastly, to cap this thing off, you hit it right there, Kenny. The continuity on offense has been bad, which, I like to watch these quarterbacks and, look at their tape and so forth. The scheme isn't great. So, like, I don't know if that's a continuity issue. Maybe it is. But schematically, you would think with a quarterback, you have a quarterback with the talents of Justin Herbert, you would think the scheme would be a little bit more unique and have a little bit more sense of fluidity. But they just lack creativity and uniqueness in their scheme, and it's very, very generic. And that was part of the reason why Justin Herbert's draft status and evaluation was kind of skewed negatively. And this is not a hit on Mario Cristobal, because he's a good coach, but Cristobal, like, he didn't have Herbert doing things playing to his strengths. Herbert was just handing the ball off because Cristobal is a guy that's going to run the football, former offensive lineman. And now here at the pro level, I feel the same thing is happening where Herbert numbers could possibly be better, but it's scary, right? But it's held back because Generic schematically with offensively. So I thought Sean Payton, and I heard of Sean Payton, like he was like, when I took New Orleans job, I didn't have a quarterback. We signed Drew Brees, but
he wanted Tony. He's trying to get Tony. He's trying to bring Tony with him.
They just said, hey, we get Drew Brees, but nobody knew that Drew Brees was going to be like healthy again. It was a long shot. So you look at this location. This is a sexy, attractive job.
LA.
If Staley doesn't get the job done.
Gotta be it would probably have to be the best job opening in the league, potentially.
Absolutely.
Which will, I guess if we're looking like we're moving ahead, we might be able to tackle it really quick. We'll see what happens. Okay. But next game, and this is 1 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. Bills Dolphins. I think it's very one-sided, and I already think the Bills are just a better team. But then you add in the uncertainty at the quarterback position. Teddy Bridgewater banged up. Tua Tagovailoa, we know he's had a plethora of concussions and he's dealing with that. And we don't know if either quarterback's going to play. So there's a chance they start their third guy, Skylar Thompson. I'm just going to go Bills. I'm not even going to tarry on this one. I'm going to go Bills comfortably. One, I think they're the better team, and then the quarterback uncertainty is even worse. What do you?
I agree. I think we're all going to be in agreement. Don't got to spend a ton of time on this. I think it's going to be Thompson that Miami's probably going to put out there at quarterback again. We already seen kind of a preview of how that was on Sunday with them barely getting a 9-6 win.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a game. This is one of those. Hopefully for the Bills, this is one of those. Okay, let's clean some things up type of games. Let's go out here and put up a solid effort. Let's go out here and let's dominate. You know what I'm saying? Let's get after Skylar Thompson. Don't allow him to get the ball in the hands of these players because they do still got two dynamic wide receivers. You know what I'm saying? In Waddle and Hill. So hey, let's not allow him to get the ball into these playmakers' hands. And then for them, I would love to see Buffalo possibly get some semblance of a run game going in this game.
It's been building. Give them some credit.
It has.
A little credit.
There's been a little progression there, but I would love to see them use this game and go out there and just punch those guys in the mouth and just show the rest of the league, like, hey,
we can do this.
Not only is Josh Allen, but if need to, we can play smash mouth football. We can get in the trenches, put hands on people and move guys and run this ball down your throat if we need to. And so I would love to see Buffalo take this opportunity against a team who's kind of down on their wits right now. But with that being said, I think Buffalo wins this pretty handily. I'll go maybe 31-17 Buffalo. But I think Buffalo wins this.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Buffalo wins it probably 20s. I'll probably do 28-29 to 10. I think we saw the quarterback play with Miami. It was not good. It was just simply not good. Versus the Jets, they barely squeaked by. So not much to say here.
Everybody's like, we're gonna keep this nice and short. I agree. I'm kind of on par with both the scores. 28. I'll go 28-14. Right. I'll give them two scores. But yeah, Bills Dolphins game. Interesting one. If Tua plays, it will be close. If not, this is a blowout. But here's the thing: Tua hasn't played in a few weeks, and he's still. I hate to say this word. He's still kind of a concussion case.
I wouldn't even.
I play him. I wouldn't risk him.
I wouldn't put him out. I think, and not to get too far off topic, I think Tua really might need to consider
his future.
Football is his future. If football is really worth it for him, because
I tell you what he could always do. He can
What's
get a
that?
CD. He can get a CDL. No, it's good money. I'm not, bro. It's guys making big money. He could buy his own trucks. He already has revenue. He could buy 3 or 4 trucks. Start an LLC.
Bro,
All right, never mind.
I just knew you was gonna be like get into, be an
What?
analyst, get into sports talk or something.
No, he can start a CDL.
That man said,
all right.
I ain't knocking it, but it's it was just so far off of what I thought you were gonna say.
All right, man. All right. So okay, we got an interesting matchup. Giants and Vikings. They got the -3, huh?
This Sunday?
This Sunday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think this is gonna be one of the more interesting games, because you have Minnesota, who is so up and down. Either they're winning a close game or they're getting blown out. So they're kind of like last year's Arizona team, not nearly as injured, but kind of soft. Like a talented but soft team. And then you get this Giants team who isn't very talented, but they're well coached and they can run the football, and they actually have a very formidable defense that's getting better and heating up at the time. What do you guys think about this matchup?
So I'm not even gonna lie. This is probably the toughest matchup of the weekend for me to pick. I say that for a few reasons. I think that on paper, I'm not even gonna lie, when I look at the Giants, I wonder how did they make how did they get to what was it, 9-8-1?
Yeah.
I wondered, or 9-7-1, something like that. But I wonder, how did they make the playoffs? And the only thing I really came up with, other than Saquon Barkley staying healthy, having a solid season, was Brian Daboll has to be coach of the year. Because
you have to give it to him.
I don't think anyone seen this team being this successful, getting off to that start and being able to hold it and making the playoffs. He's made, and I am not a Daniel Jones fan. I would still move off of him. However, he has made Daniel Jones. He has gotten him to the fact where it's not so out of the realm that they go ahead and maybe sign him to a little slight extension and that he comes back. He's made Daniel Jones, look like a NFL starting quarterback.
Right.
And then my enigma with this game is, and I mentioned this in the chat, man, the Minnesota Vikings defense. I promise you, I think we can take 11 guys out of our chat and we might could score 30 on them. Their defense is so bad. It is so bad. And then for a, what were they, 13-4? For a 13-win team, they have multiple stinkers. They got smacked by the Cowboys. They went to Lambeau, got smacked by Green Bay. They were getting the brakes beat off of them by the Colts before they came up with this miraculous effort and came back. But the Colts were up 33-0. They were up 30 in Minnesota.
Right.
In Minnesota. But yet this is still a 13-win team. So that's the enigma with this game, because to me, I feel like all signs point to Minnesota should, blow this team out. But we just don't know what we could get, So with that being said, I think that come Sunday, if the Giants can keep it close early, if they can not allow Minnesota to jump out to, a crazy start and not let Cousins and Justin Jefferson get going early, they can kind of control some things early and keep it a game. I think although we've seen Minnesota be a lot better in close game situations this year, but I think if the Giants can keep this game close, I think they have a really, really, really good shot. But almost against my better judgment, because I don't know, man. I really want to pick the Giants in this game because I do not trust Minnesota. But I think ultimately they're just going to be a little bit too much for the Giants to handle. I think ultimately Justin Jefferson makes a catch or makes that one play He's that one playmaker that the Giants just don't have right now. And ultimately, I think that's what pulls them out on top. But I think another close game, I'm gonna take Minnesota, and I'm gonna take them by a field goal. I'm gonna say 2017. I think the Giants defense kind of steps up. And yeah, I'm gonna go 2017 Minnesota.
This is tough.
What you guys say?
Brian Daboll is my absolute coach of the year. Once he got this team to 6-1, I think I was like, yeah, this is my coach of the year.
Mhm.
This is my coach of the year because we talk about guys like McVay, Kyle Shanahan, even a guy like Nick Sirianni, where he may not be on that level, but his name is being thrown into coach of the year. You lift up the garage that the 49ers have. They got foreigns, they got Ferraris, they got Lamborghinis, they got Rolls Royce, they got premium talent. You lift up Philly garage, they got premium talent. Brian Daboll, you lift up his garage in New York.
Blister Compact.
I mean,
you got a couple compact cars.
He's working with Toyotas and RAV4, right? RAV4.
You got the little people in there.
I'm telling you, man.
Hey, kidding. RAV4s and go-karts.
And go-karts, exactly.
That's what's in Brian Daboll's garage. Mm-hmm. And I think it's it's a great story. The mere fact that he has this team in the playoffs playing meaningful football in January is a sight for sore eyes for Giant fans. I would say they just don't have enough. I as bad as I want to pick the Giants, and I had the score already mapped out in my head, 26-23 Giants. Ivor brought up a good point. I don't know if they have enough, just enough playmakers to make a couple more plays. And we talk about how the Minnesota's defense is bad. Kenny knows. I think this Minnesota team, dare I say, very fraudulent, highly fraudulent.
They're the class of.
I think they're highly fraudulent, but
they're the class of the NFC.
he puts them in the class of the NFC. But their defense is leaky. But it'll be hard for me to imagine their defense not singling in on Saquon Barkley and trying to assess as many resources to stopping or not just stopping, but slowing down Saquon Barkley and forcing someone else to beat you. I think with that game plan, I want to choose the Giants so bad. I really want to choose the Giants so bad.
Me too, man.
And you know what? I'm gonna take them. I'm gonna take them 23-20. My only worry with the Giants is and I think this game is gonna be pretty close because Minnesota defense. I've said this all year. Defensively, they win a lot of these close games because Kenny wants to give credit like he's Chase Bank. He wants to give them credit for winning those games. No. He wants to give them credit for winning close games, and I'm not saying
we have to. That's a trade.
Hear me out.
We have to, man.
It is a trade.
Wait. What time is the game? What time is the game again?
I don't know.
It is 4:30 p.m. It's not a night game.
Okay. If it was a night game,
I'm taking the Giants, right? But no.
Well, it's early evening.
Kenny wants to give the Vikings credit like he's
we
Chase
have
Bank.
to.
No. Like he's Bank of America. Like he's Bank of America. He wants to give them credit for winning 11 games by 7 or less points.
That's a trait, Zay.
That's a trait, and that's you. That's called being you. There's some luck there, but then also situationally, they're good. They're good, but the reason why they play in so many close games is because their defense is not good enough.
I concur.
So that's why they win so many close games. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I say that to say this. I don't think it's going to be a blowout because their defense is not good enough. So I think the Giants keep it close, and I'm going to take the Giants 23-20.
Okay. You have to stop disrespecting the Minnesota Vikings.
I'm not
13 wins. Watch this. 13 wins. Rookie head coach. Top 10 to 15 quarterback in Kirk Cousins. Top 3 wide receiver in Jefferson. Top 5 running back in Dalvin Cook. One of the best pass rushing duos in Daniel Hunter and Zadarius Smith. I mean, Patrick Peterson's having a comeback year.
Turn the clock back.
Right?
Did he make the Pro Bowl?
No, he didn't. All that being said, I'm taking the Giants, and I'm going to tell you why. Look, I'm taking the Giants, and I'm going to tell you why.
This guy.
What? No, I mean, two things can be true. You can have respect for a team, and you can choose who you want to choose. This Giants team is very. Not only do I feel like they have a better coach in Brian Daboll, who's manufactured offense, who's pulled offense out of his ass. Like sometimes I'm looking at like who are these guys that Daniel Jones is throwing to? Yeah. They understand. I think this is the big thing. This is I think the biggest thing you have going into the playoffs is identity. This Giants team know who they are. They're a defensive team with a strong running game that operates off of play action. And I'll say this. We're getting to a point, at least this year, we have to, when we talk about the very successful, dangerous running quarterbacks, the Justin Fields, the Jalen Hurts, we got to put Daniel Jones in that category. We have to respect him for it. And they've won games off of his legs. There are about 2 or 3 games this year where Saquon Barkley was stymied and Daniel Jones ran them to victory.
Agreed.
So this is a team, so they can key in. For one, this is already a bad defense. You can key in on Saquon Barkley all you want, but you're going to let Daniel Jones loose. I think this is going to be, I don't think it's going to be a blow or anything. I think it's going to be, I'm predicting 28-21. But I could easily see the Giants as an offensive unit rushing over 200 yards. And I think defensively, right now, that pass rush is starting to heat up. You got
Thibodeau starting to come around.
Thibodeau, Ujulari, the guys that I wanted to see grow. Dexter Lawrence is in his bag. They still got Leonard Williams. I think Adoree Jackson is just getting back healthy in the secondary. Landon Collins.
He's turning back.
Starting to come back into his own. Mm-hmm. I said, man, I'm loving this reunion. So this Giants team is just, they're full of excitement, and they don't fit. I think maybe it's just me. They don't feel like a one and done team to me. They don't feel like a team that's in a playoff. Like a team that's again in this matchup. I think this is a bad matchup for them because they just played them a few weeks ago and they barely beat them.
That's what
that's what makes this matchup dangerous. Now, let's say Minnesota's playing Seattle. I'll take Minnesota.
Yeah.
Right. But they're playing a team that gave them hell a few weeks ago who wasn't even healthy. And now you have to see these guys again, and they're healthy. They've had a week of rest off. I didn't think Brian Daboll was going to rest the starters, but he did. So I just think this is going to be a game where you see the Giants go and win. And I mean, man, it's going to have massive playoff implications because now the Giants are going to go to Philly, and I think that is going to be they're going to give Philly a handful. So it's really going to make things interesting. But once again, I'm going to take the Giants 28-21.
So I'm the lone Vikings guy here, huh?
And there's nothing wrong with that because the Vikings, if we want to talk about from an offensive talent standpoint, and yeah, they have more talent, but I just don't feel like I don't feel like they know their identity. I think
and once again, it was a tough decision for me as well. I really think if they can weather the storm, if they can not let Minnesota come out and jump on them early, because if Minnesota gets up, 10 zip, 14 zip, it's probably game over. Like if they can just weather the storm early and, get, late into the third and still, right there, one possession game, or they're winning or whatever, they can pull it off. But once again, I just think, they just don't quite have enough playmakers And even though I'm not sold on this Minnesota team, and whoever they play next, I probably pick them to lose.
Right. Because they're gonna go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So then we got the Ravens Bengals. It's going to be at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. And I want to say they got the Bengals at -6.5 in this game. A lot of uncertainty in this game, kind of similar to the Miami situation, where we really don't know if Lamar Jackson's going to play. Like that's a real question. He hasn't been with the team, I want to say, for the better part of 2 months. Like he hasn't practiced. He's a athletic quarterback that depends on his legs, and he has a PCL injury. And they say sprain, but it could easily be a partial tear. You never know. But he is in a very interesting predicament with his pending contract. He doesn't want to hurt his value, but at the same time, I mean, hey, it's the playoffs. You still want to have the chance to win a Super Bowl, to win a championship. So what are y'all's thoughts on this game? What are your predictions?
This is well, first of all, even if Lamar plays, and I don't know, I guess from what I'm hearing, word is he is going to play Saturday or Sunday. Even if Lamar plays, I was probably still going to go with Cincinnati. So Cincinnati is going to be my pick. I just think they're everything's clicking, for them right now. They're playing some of the best ball in the league heading into the playoffs. Joe Burrow's amazing. Defense is quietly, as they've been for the past couple of years. Defense is, quietly making plays, and they're sufficient or whatnot. I think if Lamar does play, I think he makes things a little interesting because they've got J.K. Dobbins back, and since J.K. Dobbins has been back, he's been running the ball fairly well. So if they're able to get Lamar back and really kind of add to that running game, I think they can cause a scare for Cincinnati. But ultimately, I mean, once again, Cincinnati is just you can argue they're probably the best. They're probably playing the best ball of any team heading into the playoffs right now. They're really clicking on all cylinders. And I do think that the cloud of this Lamar Jackson situation will kind of hover over the Baltimore Ravens. I think hypothetically, even if he does play, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he plays. Will he be as willing to break out of the pocket and try to make some moves with his feet? Will he play a lot more in the pocket and try to protect himself, looking towards that big paycheck? I think it's a really interesting dynamic with what's going on with the Ravens. But even with Lamar, I think Cincinnati wins. If Lamar plays, I think it's closer. So I'll say maybe if Lamar plays, I'll say 30-20 Cincinnati. If Lamar doesn't play, I'll say maybe 31-13 Cincinnati. But either way, I'm going with Cincinnati. I think they're the better team here. Sorry, Bo, if you're listening. I think Cincinnati. Yeah, I'm sure he is. He probably gonna come in a minute. But I just think Cincinnati's the better team. They're playing some of the best football of any team heading into the playoffs right now. They're at home. And yeah, I think Cincinnati just pulls it out.
I'm gonna choose Cincinnati. I think people know how high I am on this team. I'm really high on this Cincinnati team. I think they, out of any team in the playoffs, they have more ways to win out of any team in the playoffs. I feel like even some of the teams like Kansas City, the 49ers, the Eagles, they rely on a certain style of play, and the game has to be played at a certain pace and on their terms. I think Cincinnati, they can win in any style of fight. They can win in a shootout. They can win in a slugfest. They can win if you trying to if it's going to be a physical football game. They can win that way. I literally seen them win a playoff game last year where Joe Burrow got sacked 9 times
against Tennessee.
That's against Tennessee.
That's not normal.
That is not supposed to happen.
No, it's not.
I was gonna say
it's not normal.
The thing with Cincinnati that I feel like don't get talked about much their defense.
Mhm.
They're
yeah.
a top 10 unit in football defensively, but they don't have a guy named Bosa or a couple dudes named Bosa, or they don't have a Michael Parsons. They don't have like a Aaron Don. They don't have a star-studded superstar elite name that comes to mind. But collectively as a unit, they are as good as anyone at their best. Like, and granted, they're missing Awuzie, their best DB. So I'm gonna choose Cincinnati. I think this is a different Bengals team that the Ravens beat early on. I think that was like week 3, week 4. I think it was like week 4, week 5. It was early on in the season before Cincinnati had hit their stride. And like I said, I say it time and time, you know, when I come on here over the past month and a half, I've been saying, hey, I've been ringing the bell of the Cincinnati Bengals. I think outside of Patrick Mahomes, I trust Joe Burrow more than I trust Josh Allen in these big spots.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's fair. That's fair.
I don't think that's a hot take.
That's fair.
If you're telling me game on the line, you got a timeout with 1 minute and 45 seconds, and I need 7, I'm down 6. Give me Joe Burrow before you give me Josh Allen. Josh Allen is physically more gifted, but I just trust Joe. He's never too high. He's like, I get the same demeanor and I sent the same swag. And
Joe
that's
cool.
what kind of made Joe cool. That's what kind of made me
fair.
fall in love with this team last year in their Super Bowl run, because he was the leader. He was cool. He was confident. Offensive line wasn't the greatest. I feel like this team, it's very reminiscent to last year where they started to hit their stride. They beat Kansas City. They got some confidence. And they're going into the playoffs once again with a stronger offensive line. And granted, they lost Lionel Collins, but they had, before that injury, they had some really good continuity going with their offensive line. They got 2 hit monster in the backfield with P. Ryan and Joe Mixon. Obviously, we know about the receivers. Obviously, we know about Joe Burrow. But then defensively, collectively as a unit, they are really damn solid. I want people to understand they are damn solid as a unit. So I got Cincinnati. I'm assuming Lamar Jackson plays. I think this is going to be 31-21 or 31-20 Cincinnati.
And I'm kind of on par with everything you guys are saying. Not a shot at Lamar Jackson. I just think this is going to be one of those situations where you're playing a team that there's nothing you can really threaten them with that they haven't seen in a situation that they haven't been in. This defense can stop the run. You know, I love Logan Wilson. Even though they're not these Pro Bowl guys, Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt are a really good tandem at linebacker. You know, and then obviously in the front 7, they have Sam Hubbard, Hendrickson, and DJ Reader. Like, they have these unheralded, really good guys that as a unit they come together. They just have too much talent. I think that's where it comes to. And Joe Burrow said something. We talk about what he does on the field, but I think we don't talk enough about how he's changed the culture. Joe Burrow said something in a press conference. I want to say it was today or yesterday. He said, our Super Bowl window is my entire career. Yeah. And by God, that is just like, oh man. But you know what? Last year he said, when they made the playoffs, he said, this is going to become the new norm for us. And
you got to love his confidence.
You have to love it. But it's because he went through all that adversity that he can have. And he said, I have confidence because I know what I put into this.
Right.
You know, and you just have to love it. And I love, you know, me. I'm very big on the quarterback talent tree and how they grade quarterbacks. And me and Zay agree all the time. It gets very corny now. I like Joe Burrow because he throws a monkey wrench in all that shit. He doesn't have the strongest arm. He's not the most athletic guy. He's very much of a throwback quarterback in the mode of a Joe Montana and a Tom Brady, where he doesn't pop off the screen from a physical standpoint, but his intangibles are just off the chart. And ultimately, I think that is going to be what wins them this game. I think they have the better quarterback. I can't say they have the better coach. They have the better quarterback, and they just have the more talented. And I think Lamar Jackson, I think we're gonna see him coming off of injury, or still being injured, we're going to see how that affects him because his athleticism is just such a big part of his game.
Right.
And then, so I think that is going to be the tough part, that we don't know I don't think we'll get the best Lamar. Right. If it's the best Lamar, maybe this is more of an effective game, but we're not getting the best Lamar. So I'm going to go Cincinnati. I would take them. I would say 28-17. I think Baltimore, will, score two touchdowns, kick a field goal, and I think they'll be mildly competitive. The defense is not a lay down, but once again, Cincinnati offensively just has weapons that it doesn't matter how great your defense is. Jamar Chase is going to be Jamar Chase. T. Higgins is going to be T. Higgins. So, So I think we're all in agreement that we're going to take Cincinnati in this game.
I'll say this though, real quick. So, comes out today that Baltimore has made Roquan Smith the highest paid linebacker in history. He got a $100 million deal, $45 million guaranteed. Lord forbid, if Lamar Jackson does win this game, it's going to be some smoke in the city, because I feel like if he wins this game, there's no way you're going to be able to tell him that he's not worth every penny that they just paid Deshaun Watson last year. And I don't think that he'll play on a franchise tag next year.
No, he won't.
So, Lord forbid he goes out there, wins this game, or even wins another game. They get to an AFC.
Look good doing it.
And look good doing it. Oh, yeah, it's going to be smoke in the city.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Honestly, if I'm Lamar Jackson, I wouldn't even entertain a franchise tag.
Oh, no. Oh, absolutely.
And the only way I'd entertain it is if it's signed with intent to trade.
Okay.
That's the only way I'd entertain it, right?
Yep.
So, yes. So, I think we're all in agreement on the Bengals. We're all taking the Bengals. So then we have the final game, and this is sensitive. It's going to be a very tough one for me. But we got the Cowboys at the Buccaneers. Buccaneers +3. 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. This is going to be the Monday game. I'll say this. I hate that it's on a Monday, because regardless of who wins, they're going to have a short week. I think that's kind of fucking them. I think that's pretty bad. So, you have a Cowboys team that lost in embarrassing fashion. I think they maybe didn't stand up. They didn't think that they were going to have to play hard against a Washington division rival that really had nothing to lose, because they got eliminated the week before.
Right.
And they probably had one of their poorest outputs of the season. Lot of theories as to maybe they were hiding the playbook or whatever. I don't know. I just think it's no excuse for a team to score 6 points going into the playoffs, especially with your starters on the field. And then we have a Buccaneers team that really didn't play their starters the totality of the game. I think they pulled them out after like the first quarter, maybe before the second half. But the Buccaneers have managed to win a few close games to keep themselves and ultimately win their division, which was pretty tight. And this is going to be Tom Brady's first losing season. And once again, so they're hosting this playoff game. And fun fact, before you guys tell me what you guys think on this game, the only team that the Buccaneers have beat by 10 or more are the Cowboys. Only team they've beaten this season by 10 or more. So what are you guys' thoughts on this game? Your thoughts and predictions? Give it to me straight, no chaser.
This game has it's so many underlying themes to this game. It's so much to really dig into from this game, especially seeing the performance and everything that came along with the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday and how that went in that 23-6 loss to Washington. A lot can be picked apart there. I don't even think the starters. I think the starters were in well into the fourth quarter.
Oh yeah,
which was crazy to me, but another story for another day. Then you got Buccaneers team who Tom Brady was pretty adamant that he wanted to play far into the game, because I think he wanted to kind of continue to build off the performance he had the week before against Carolina, which was easily his best performance of the year and probably their best performance of the year as an offense. Otherwise, they've been pretty anemic offensively this year. And so he wanted to kind of build on that. I said all that to, get to the meat and potatoes. There is no reason the Cowboys should lose this game. The Cowboys, they're the more talented team. They've been the better offensive team. They've been the better defensive team. There's no reason why the Cowboys should lose this game. They should be able to keep in the back of their minds what happened to them in 2 consecutive week ones, because they lost to Tampa Bay in week 1 last year. So they should be able to keep in mind what's happened to them in 2 consecutive week ones. They should have in mind what just happened in week 18 and the terrible showing that they had there. And hopefully they were able to build on it. I truly, truly, truly hope that Mike McCarthy has these guys ready to play from coin toss, from kickoff. Because a lot of times that seems to be the issue. They come out a little slow, a little lackadaisical. Then all of a sudden they find themselves in a dogfight, and then you're depending on Dak to play hero ball and win a game for you. So hopefully they come out motivated, ready to play. Tampa Bay has had some offensive line issues. So hopefully that's the green light for a Micah Parsons, maybe a D-Law, Dorrance Armstrong. Maybe that's the green light for those guys to really get after Tom Brady. I think, and I feel like Zay is going to allude to this. I think if the Cowboys lose this game, I think Mike McCarthy might be gone. I think this is a hot seat game for him. I think this is a must-win game for them. There's no reason, there's no excuse for them to lose this game. So with that being said, in a close one, I do think the Cowboys do come to play, and I do think they pull this out. I think ultimately at the end, in a close game, I think that either Micah or one, I think as the defensive front 7 or the front 4, maybe, I think they make a play. They get a sack or a forced fumble or something. I think they ultimately just make a play to seal this game for them. And I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I'll say Cowboys. I'm going to say 23-20 Cowboys.
So, yeah, Ira, you alluded to it. I mentioned Brandon Staley being one of the 2 coaches. Mike McCarthy is that second coach, where I think this is a must-win. Granted, this is the first time the Cowboys won 11 games back-to-back years, or 12
games.
12 games since the 90s Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
That's great and all. I feel like that's, this roster's good enough, so I'm not going to say you should, but, congratulations. But I think anything less of a NFC championship berth this year for the Cowboys, I just don't know with Mike McCarthy. I think his future is uncertain. And especially if he doesn't win this game on Monday, if he doesn't find a way to win this game on Monday versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, granted, I know they have Tom Brady. I honestly, with all disrespect, I don't care. I do not care who they have. We're talking about a Todd Bowles-led football team where I like Todd Bowles. I root for the black coach, but damn, he is bad.
He's better suited as a coordinator.
He's best suited as a coordinator. If Mike McCarthy some way, somehow coughs up this game and lose this game, I see no other reason. I see the Cowboys have to move on. I feel like they have to move on if McCarthy loses this game. They're just too talented of a football team, and they're wasting too many years of having really good talent and, dare I say, an opportunity within the NFC to make a deep playoff run. Mm-hmm. So these wasted opportunities got to come to a cease. Now, thankfully, I'm going to choose the Cowboys to win. I think they win 27-20. I'm going to go 27-17. I think they get just enough stops. I think they're unlike the first time last year when they played Tampa Bay. Dallas didn't even think about trying to run the football. Well, this Tampa Bay defense is set up and built a little differently. They're missing some guys on within that defense.
Success to be had there,
right? And honestly, you can run the ball in this. You can run the ball in this defense. You can.
Yeah,
you can. And that wasn't the case a year and a half ago, but it is now. Vita Veda scares me. There are some guys on that defense that really do scare me. But I think Dallas, if they should come in here, they should execute. This should be clean football. They should win this game. And I think, and I'm comparing Dallas offensive front and Tampa Bay's defensive front. You look at Tampa Bay's offensive front, it's been injury riddled all year. They have had trouble and problems trying to protect Brady and keep Brady upright and tight. I think Dallas need to unleash the Wolves and they need to get to the quarterback. I want to see a 4 or 5 sack performance from this defensive line because I think they're good enough. And you look at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is injury riddled and missing some guys. This should be a 4 or 5 sack performance from the Cowboys defensive front. And I'm gonna choose the Cowboys 27-17. I think the Cowboys get off to a hot start. I think Tampa try to ease their way back into the game like they've been doing the latter part of this year. But I think Dallas will put a cease to it and they get some stops. Hopefully that sack number that I called out comes into existence.
What's going on, fellas?
Come on, feed us.
Every here now and again,
feed us this BS.
every here now and again, Kenny the football guy takes charge and he overpowers what Kenny the Cowboy fan wants. I think it's very clear that the Cowboys are the more talented football team.
Obviously,
we can argue from offensively, defensively, special teams wise. They're the better football team, and they probably have the better coach. I mean, but one thing I've seen over and over again with this unit, and I think that's why this matchup is so important for them, is that they have some quarterbacks who they play who just own them. And it doesn't matter how good they are. They get and they play them and they bow. They just bow to them. Aaron Rodgers is one of them. Aaron Rodgers owns them. I when I watched that last game and Dallas was head and shoulders better than Green Bay, I came to the conclusion that Aaron Rodgers just owns them. And Tom Brady, they've never beaten him ever. He's never lost to the Cowboys ever in his career. He's 7-0 against them. I think that mental aspect is going to come into play and also add that to some of the weaknesses that Dallas has right now in the secondary. I think that CB2 spot is very questionable. And right now you're looking at Tampa Bay. Chris Godwin is playing his best football right now. Mike Evans is playing his best football right now. Mike Evans just had a 200-yard game a week ago. Julio Jones might be back. They're really starting to get some things and get some wheels turning on that offense. I'll be honest, this just feels like a game that the Cowboys are going to lose. And I'm going to do something. Kenny, the football guy, is this one. I think the logic wants us to say that the Cowboys are going to win, but the eye test and what we've seen from this team over and over again with this quarterback, if it's anybody else, I'd take them. But I'm going to take Tampa Bay, and I'm going to take Tampa Bay 28-24.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
I should, but I sometimes, but I will say this. I'll offer a caveat. This is going to be an exercising of the demons game for Dallas. If they win this game, let's say by chance Dallas wins this game, they'll be in the NFC Championship. I guarantee it. If they win this game, because it's going to be a very big. This is a mental test for them. Because they usually get in front of Tom Brady, they get in front of Aaron Rodgers, and they just submit. If they can overcome that and really operate in their talent and operate in their power and realize how good of a team they can really be, I think that they can beat anybody left in the NFC playoffs. But that's the question mark. It's not a question of talent. It's about intangibles and mindset, right? And then I said this on the chat, and I'll follow this up, and I'll go ahead and drop this. Dallas loses this game, and they don't fire Mike McCarthy. And I'm saying this to the world. If they lose this game and they don't fire Mike McCarthy, I will no longer be a Cowboys fan because it's 2023, and I'm eliminating all mediocrity from my life.
Hey,
And that is a fact.
hey, you know what though? And I'm gonna say this though, something to look out for as well. And I think that's part of the reason why I hated that the Cowboys did play their starters, well, like I said, wait till about the 5-minute mark in the fourth quarter. I think I watched pretty much the whole game, and they played those guys for quite a while. Now, granted, we've discussed in our group chat that although a lot of these interceptions aren't his fault, yet and still, Dak Prescott has a turnover in, I think, 8 consecutive games now.
7.
Yes.
In 8 consecutive games. And that's not the type of play you won't head into the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? That is, you know what I'm saying? Especially in the playoffs where one turnover can be the difference in a game. And so Dak, moving forward, he has to take better care of the ball. I think Carlton Davis will be back for this game. So they'll Tampa Bay had a top cornerback. Dak really has to take care of the ball. But I just think they'll exercise those demons. I just think Tampa Bay gives us no reason other than that one performance against Carolina. They haven't given us any reason to believe that they can find some success.
And remember this, and these are the things that I want people to pay attention to. Even though as a whole Dallas is better, 2 things that scare me. One, the CB2 spot, which at best you're gonna maybe put a Deron Bland there. Or an Xavier Rhodes, and they're going to have to match up against Mike Evans, who is hot right now, smoking hot. Another thing on the offense, we switched to the offensive side of the ball. We're very critical of Dak, but I'm gonna tell you guys this: his receivers are bottom 5 in the league in separation.
Oh yeah, they definitely need a wide receiver too. I don't know if Michael Gallup has ever fully got back to form. They could definitely.
He hasn't gotten back to form.
A wide receiver too.
Yeah. He hasn't gotten back. So, but my thing is, the issue is, and I think take some grace on Dak. He'll never be the next second coming of Dan Marino. I think that's unfair to ask of him. He has receivers that can't separate, and he has an offensive line that can't block. That's a terrible combination for a quarterback that's not a god.
Yeah.
So, you're saying, Dak's playing kind of bad. He's not Dan Marino, and he has receivers that can't separate and the offensive line that can't block. What do you expect? He's going to throw in tight windows. He's going to take chances. Because what else can he do? Take sacks all day? Right. So that's what scares me. That's what scares me most with this Tampa Bay team is that I feel like they'll be able to exploit those weaknesses and make it an ugly game. And I think you'll see Dallas do a little bit of things. Once again, this is going to be on coaching. We'll see what Kellen Moore comes up with. Maybe he comes up with some creative bag, motions CeeDee Lamb a lot more, keeps the defense on his heels. But if not, I'm telling you guys this, it's probably going to sting. And you're going to see Tom Brady, and I don't know how. Maybe he just understands pacing so much, but he always ends up with the ball in his hands at the end of the game. I don't know why.
That would be the worst possible scenario, though.
It always happens. It always happens. He always ends up with the ball in his hands at the end of the game. So this is just a game, like I said, just, not to beat the dead horse, that I really just see Dallas losing. But yeah. Wow. So yeah, that is the Super Wild Card weekend. It's gonna be fun.
Zay, man, take his Cowboy card, man. He ain't no real fan, man.
I mean, hey, man, sometimes Kenny the football fan has to stand up and he has to operate in what he thinks, But the Cowboys fan, man, hey, I ain't gonna lie, that man he's beat up, he's bludgeoned.
It's okay.
Yeah, he's tired right now.
But it's gonna be some really, really, really good football played this weekend. There's some very interesting matchups. Like I said, I think as far as I think if you want to see points all over the field, I think that Charger Jaguars game is the game. the Cincinnati and Baltimore is interesting. Obviously, this Dallas and Tampa Bay game is going to be interesting, which is why they put it on Monday night. You know, so yeah, it's going to be some great games this weekend. So definitely tune in for sure.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So we got that. Obviously, more to follow. Next Tuesday we'll be right off the Dallas game, so we'll definitely have some, be able to help the outcome of those matchups. But I told you guys, me and Zay, the past few weeks been talking a lot of football, rightfully so, because we had bowl season, we had week 17, week 18, which we're heating up. But I said we would just talk just a tad bit, not too much, but we were going to give you guys a little bit of your basketball fix, and I guess it's only fitting that we get Swan Dime back. Just talk a little bit of basketball. We have the Nets, who he has been the biggest supporter. Look, I'm gonna tell you guys this: men, find a woman that supports you as much as Ira supports the Nets. You'll achieve every dream you ever wanted to achieve. You'll have a happy, fulfilling life. But he supported them, and now we look up, and what is their record now?
20. I know they're second in the East, and they won. They had a 12-game win streak before my Bulls snapped it, but now they're 13. They've won 13 or 14.
They're 27-13.
27-13. Okay.
Yeah.
27-13. So, give us a quick analysis on their resurgence. I know Kevin Durant's hurt right now. He's going to be out for about a month. But give us a quick, analysis of their just what things are looking like for them going forward.
Yeah, so KD, he just got hurt in their last game against Miami. Jimmy Butler kind of fell into his leg, so he has like an MCL sprain, and they say they'll reevaluate him in about 2 weeks, but they're expecting him to be out about a month. Which can be scary for them, and I say that because I don't know if people remember this, but it was right around this time last year, and actually Brooklyn was actually in the same situation. They were actually surging, and they had gotten up to about second in the East. And then KD had got hurt last year around this time, and they kind of faltered. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them moving forward. Reasons for the Nets resurgence right now. Like I said, they went on this 12-game win streak, which is the longest of any team thus far this year. And now they've won. They lost to the Bulls, and then they just beat Miami the other day. So they've won 13 or 14. I'll start here. Number one, it's been pretty quiet there. We haven't heard a lot of the extra off the court stuff. Kyrie's been kind of just sticking to playing ball after we've gotten over the whole initial issue earlier this season with him, and the stuff on Twitter and what he posted or whatnot. He's been sticking to playing ball. Same with KD. He's been, for the most part up until now, he had been pretty healthy and on the court, and he's been playing ball. So both of those guys have been on the court. They've been able to play a lot of games together, and it's working out. KD's getting about 29, 6-5, something like that, 36-5. Yeah. And I think Kyrie's averaging about 26 a game. I think that moving off of Steve Nash was the right decision. Now, I was already skeptical of the hire. My main reason for skepticism is because, and even when Steve Nash got hired initially in that first season, he had Mike D'Antoni on his staff. And he is kind of a Mike D'Antoni product.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to Mike D'Antoni, because I think that Mike D'Antoni has a lot to do with offensive basketball as we see it now in the NBA. And he doesn't get a lot of credit for a lot of the things that he helped kind of push in the NBA. However, he's never been one to teach defense. Mike D'Antoni, I've always said Mike D'Antoni will never win a championship. Any Mike D'Antoni coach team will never win a championship. And anyone who takes after that philosophy will never win a championship.
Their style of play?
Yeah, because he just doesn't coach defense.
Yeah.
And you look at Mike D'Antoni, and when he had his best years, Steve Nash was his point guard, his floor general. And Steve Nash kind of takes right after him. And you've seen a lot of what you would see in Mike D'Antoni teams. You've seen that a lot in the Brooklyn Nets, specifically defensively. Obviously, I mean, when you got a Kevin Durant, a Kyrie Irving, and then a James Harden, when you got those guys, you're going to be able to score, you know, but he never really preached defense. I think that is really telling, right? Kevin Durant, you know, when he asked for his trade and or he asked for the GM and Steve Nash to go. And then after Steve Nash left, I think it's really telling that he said that it was no structure. He said he would go to Steve Nash and he'd tell him, you know, on days where Steve Nash would just have guys coming in for a shoot around. And he said he would go to him and say, like, you know, hey, I think we need to work on this. I think we need to work on that. You know, we have some issues here. But hey, challenge me. You know what I'm saying? Help me to get better. Help us to get better. But Steve Nash was kind of happy-go-lucky, and you know, he said on days where he felt like they would practice, they should practice. They would come in and it'd just be a shoot around. And I think that it's
which
telling,
is so crazy.
It is, and I think that it's telling that, you know, shortly thereafter they did an interview with James Harden. And they talked to him about, you know, why he wanted to get out of Brooklyn or whatever. And he basically said the same thing. His words were it just wasn't any structure there. You know what I'm saying? It was just kind of, you come in and you kind of do what you want. You know, they weren't really working on things, you know, to help the team get better. And I believe that, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Steve Nash had no other coaching experience before that. And now you put him in charge of this team with these expectations, with those superstars,
those personalities.
Yeah, it was a lot to ask of them. So now they moved off of him. They've got Jacques Vaughn in there, who, if I'm not mistaken, I think they gave Jacques Vaughn a chance as an interim coach a few years ago, and he did fairly well then.
In the bubble,
okay, and he did fairly well then. And he's very familiar with the organization, very familiar with the players. Show you my age. I remember, I can go back to when he was at Kansas. I remember when he was a backup for the Utah Jazz. Like, wow, that's crazy to me, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, he's came in, and I think immediately what you started to see them be respectable defensively.
Yep.
And with the firepower that they have offensively, all they needed was to just be respectable defensively. And that's what he's done for them. You know what I'm saying? He's gave them a scheme. He's starting to give them a little bit of an identity defensively. And then offensively, I mean, they have enough talent that if they're healthy, they'll take care of themselves. We know what KD can do. We know what Kyrie can do. Ben Simmons, although he hasn't been the all-star Ben Simmons, you know, he's still been pretty suitable defensively. You know what I'm saying? He's had some games where he's had, you know, near triple doubles. You know, he's had some, you know, maybe 11 point, 10 assists, 7, 8 rebound, you know, games. But that's all this team needs from him. You know, They signed a Royce O'Neal in the offseason who's played well for them. Nick Claxton has played some really big ball for them. And then I'm gonna tell you a secret signing that they made that's starting to pay fruition because he's getting healthy, and I think it will as the season goes on. TJ Warren is starting to come off the bench. And he's had some solid scoring efforts for him. You know, they got the shooters and Joe Harris and Seth Curry. All of a sudden, this kid Watanabe has come off the bench and he's had some pretty solid efforts.
Yeah.
So everybody seems to be buying into Jacques Vaughn. Everybody seems to be giving an effort defensively, and then offensively, they have enough guys to kind of help Kyrie and KD. Offensively. So if they can just continue to be respectable defensively, hey, who knows where this team can end up? Ultimately, I do still think they need one more true big. Yeah, because they're still really frail. Even Nick Claxton, he's like another Kevin Durant. He's just around the rim. You know,
real slight frame.
So they still need another big. But yeah, man, I mean, I got to give credit where it's due, man. I think Jacques Vaughn has really turned his team around. He's got guys buying in. A lot of the off the court issues have kind of ceased, and they playing some really solid ball. But we'll see what happens now that Kevin Durant is going to be out for a while. So we'll see what happens now.
I was just going to say, I'm looking at some of the defensive numbers compared to last year and this year. Last year they were 18th in defensive rating. Up until this year, and maybe the numbers would be skewed a little bit, but they're 8th in defensive rating, and I say skewed because Nash did coach the 7 games, but Vaughn has coached 32 games, and he's 25-8 in those games. So they could be higher if Jock Vaughn, started the season off as their coach. The defensive rating could be higher. Their opponent's points per game, it's fifth in the league. Last year it was 18th. So like once again, you see like the dramatic increase and uptick in their defensive efforts and intensity, and it's paying off. They don't have a lot of great defenders. I do think they're a little small on the perimeter. And I think overall, I think they're a really small team.
They are.
When you look at the perimeter weapons that they have and what they have in the interior, they could use another solid body. But I agree with everything you said. I think the biggest part is they've been quiet. They've been staying quiet, and we're seeing how lethal. We already knew Kevin Durant and Kyrie, like those two of the greatest offensive players, not just in this generation, but the game has ever seen. So like we knew if they ever got on one accord, this could be dangerous. They just they have failed. There's been brief instances and stretches where it happens, but it seems like it hasn't been sustainable. But this last 20 game stretch, the best 20 game stretch in Nets history, they're 18-2.
Wow. So can they survive this onslaught without Kevin Durant, who's been such a big part of that streak?
Obviously,
I think this next couple weeks will be probably the most important time of their season. Now is a time for Kyrie Irving to really truly be a leader.
Right.
They're really going,
which he's never shown.
He hasn't.
Yeah.
But I think for them, they can't just totally all the way implode. They need to stay at least around 500. They got to at least play 500 ball. You know what I'm saying? While KD's out, obviously they're going to need some guys to step up as well. And that could be by committee. Maybe if Seth Curry has a great game, one game.
TJ Warren.
Maybe TJ Warren, gets hot, has a great game, one game. And then too, they still have some guys on the bench that, some older veteran guys on the bench that I'm thinking, maybe they're saving in case of a playoff run. Like they still got one of the Morris twins. I think Markieff. They still got one of them.
It's Markieff. Yeah.
Yeah. They still got one of the Morris twins on the bench who's a very serviceable NBA player, who's not even really getting a lot of time right now, Well, they're going to need a Joe Harris to kind of get out of this little slump that he's been in. They're going to need him to start knocking down some shots during this period. I think it's going to be by committee that they'll need everybody to kind of step up. They got to at least stay around 500 until KD can get back.
I was going to say this is a big swinging point of their season last year where you talked about they got up to within the standings, but then, Durant gets hurt. I think it's offensively, it can be definitely by committee. I think you ranch it up defensively. Granted, you lose. Obviously, Durant is Kevin Durant. You're losing on any given night 30 to 35 points when he's out. So if you can ranch it up a little bit defensively, that means that the margin for error that you have on offense can become a bit wider, and you can, guys, you don't have to necessarily have 2 or 3 guys playing above their heads offensively, because you can lock in a little bit more defensively. Now that's tougher said than done, but that's one way to keep them within range. I don't want to see them drop below 4 or 5 because you got some teams in this deep Eastern Conference, obviously Boston, but then you got Milwaukee right there, Cleveland, Philadelphia. Those 3 teams are all within like 1 or 2 games. So, you want to stay in that 4, anywhere between 4 and 5. You don't want to drop below 5.
I forgot they still got Patty Mills on the team. They got Cam Thomas has shown the ability to come in and score. So they're gonna have to really pick it up offensively by committee. But yeah, they have to stay, like you said, right around that 4 to 5 range at least until Kevin Durant gets back.
Most definitely. And man, let's I didn't expect it. I didn't expect the turnaround. But it's good to look up and see a team that has so much talent finally be able to put it all together and kind of produce some results. So if they can, especially if they can get through this tough stretch without Kevin Durant, it's going to pay a lot of dividends. Once again, we've never seen Kyrie Irving really truly be a leader. We all know he's a talented player that can take over games, but lead a team and be the guy, we've never seen him successfully do that. So hopefully he can do it over this stretch, and who knows, maybe that could propel them even further into being a really serious contender in the Eastern Conference.
Oh yeah, and me being a realist, like I mentioned, I still think they need another big, a physical big, maybe rebound, maybe give them a little more rim protection, because right now, and you know, I love this Brooklyn Nets team, but right now in a 7-game series, do I think they can beat Milwaukee? No, because I think Milwaukee will bully them.
Big,
honestly, if I'm being honest, do I think they can beat Philadelphia? Probably not, because Joel Embiid is going to have his way.
Yeah, he is.
So they still need another. I would look for them. I want to see them be active around the trade deadline,
which is coming.
Make a move for another big. But yeah, they heading in the right direction.
Yeah. So we'll definitely touch on the NBA trade deadline possibilities in the upcoming weeks, because it's going to start heating up, ramping up for all these teams, especially teams that feel like they can contend. Mm-hmm. So last but not least, you know, obviously we're in our closing minutes. A quick, just how fast a damn year can go by, because we're in January already. Right. About a year ago, we started up in February, rooted in sports, right in the thick. A few weeks away out of March Madness, but here we are in January again. College basketball is just starting to heat up. Tell me, just give us a quick update on the current standings of college basketball. Who's hot, who's not?
Well, I think one of the things you'll notice about college basketball this year is that a lot of those brand names, a lot of the teams that you've been used to, you know, being up in the top 5 and being extremely relevant, they're having some down years. You know, when you look at a North Carolina, who's my squad, when you look at a North Carolina, mind you, they were in the national championship game last year. When you look at a Kentucky, neither one of those teams are even in the top 25 right now. I think Duke just got back into the top 25 this week. I think they're at 24. You look at the top five teams in the nation right now. You got Houston at 1, Kansas, who they're always pretty good at 2, Purdue's at 3, Alabama's at 4, Tennessee is at 5. You know, so
where's Baylor at?
Baylor is. I don't think they're in. No, I don't think they're in the top 25 right now.
They're not in the top 10. I don't think so.
They're not. Yeah, they're not even in the top 25.
Oh wow.
So you know, here we are, and Houston's been coming now in the past couple years. If you've been watching, Houston's been making strides.
I love Calvin Sutherland.
Oh yeah. You can see them making strides, and they've been coming. But I mean, you got Purdue, Alabama, Tennessee. You got predominantly football and schools known for football. You know, and here they are in the top 25 now. So yeah, that's what we're looking at. I mean, if no other year, I think that this is a year of parity, which we've been seeing a lot in college basketball. And then rounding out the top 10, you got UConn at 6, who's kind of been a bit of a surprise this year because they've been playing some really good ball that no one expected. UCLA at 7, Gonzaga at 8, who lost a few games. Gonzaga's lost a few games early this year. They were a top 5 team preseason, lost a few games early this year, but they're rounding back into form. And then Arizona 9 and Texas at 10. So I think that's been the big thing so far this year. Just that some of the bigger name programs that we're used to really being powerhouses are really struggling. North Carolina started off the year, they were the preseason number 1 team. And I think they have 5 or 6 losses already, and they're not even in the top 25. So yeah, that's kind of been a big thing this year.
Play. We're just getting into conference play.
Just getting into conference play, yes, sir. And I know you're a big you're a Kansas fan, right?
So I'm a Jayhawk, Rock Chalk Jayhawk. I like Bill Self. I'm not surprised that they're within. I'm not surprised that they're within the top 5. They're number 2. I wanted to give a shout out to my school. My school is on top of the Patriot League, American University. We are undefeated. So shouts out to them boys. Them guys they're going crazy right now. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. If they win the Patriot League, they're in the tournament. So shout out to them. that's really my school. So like I gotta throw that out there.
And then I also wanted to just for guys, anybody who's been even a little bit update in the basketball world, you kind of know as far as the draft next year, no matter the draft order, it's been pretty consensus.
Yeah.
You got Victor Wembanyama is probably going to go 1. Scoot Henderson from the G League Ignite will probably go 2. Right now, you've also been hearing there's a set of twins who are also, I think they're on the overtime elite team. There's a set of twins, Asur Thompson, and what is the other twin name? Amin Thompson. There's a set of twins who play for the overtime elite team, and they're also really high lottery picks. Guys think both of the twins could be top 5 guys. But just a few names to look for as far as in college basketball. Speaking of Baylor, they have a freshman there named Keontae George.
Absolutely nice.
Really, really solid player. I'm still trying to figure out, is he a 1? Is he a 2? I'm still trying to kind of figure that out. But I mean, even coming out of high school, he was kind of projected to be a lottery pick. He's a really solid player. And then who's my other guy? Oh, Cam Whitmore at Villanova. Another really solid player. I think he still kind of needs to work on his shooting, but in a league where they're big on athleticism, Cam Whitmore is that athlete in this draft. So I just want to mention a couple guys outside of
the big names, the big names
tonight, but some of the guys in college basketball that you could hear their names being called early in the draft. Go ahead, Zay.
I got a name too. Kid Judah Mintz at Syracuse. He's averaging about 16 points per game. Syracuse, they're a middle of the pack team. I don't think they're ranked right now. But they could possibly make the tournament. But Judah Mintz, wing player, really rangy, gets to his spots, feisty defender. I've been following this kid. This kid can play. He can really ball. Actually went to school in the DC area. So yeah, so he not necessarily, maybe not a lottery pick, but maybe a guy that can go later in the first round. Been keeping tabs, and he's been playing really well as a freshman, as a true freshman at Syracuse. So yeah.
And I'll give another guy, and I'm sure you're familiar with him, Zay, on the Kansas Jayhawks, who's starting to climb up some boards. Grady Dick.
Grady Dick,
6'8" guy, shoots the thread off the ball. Crazy enough, I personally like Jalen Wilson better. I've loved Jalen Wilson for a few years now.
He told me, yeah.
I've loved him for a few years, but no, this kid here is really starting to climb up some boards. So yeah, just a few names to look out for outside of the guys we know, because we haven't been hearing a lot about the guys that are in college. You've been hearing about these G League guys, the overtime elite guys, the overseas guys. But I just wanted to give a few names in the college game that you could hear their names early in the NBA draft.
Most definitely. And we definitely gonna have our Rooted in Sports NBA draft, NFL draft, and then March Madness is gonna be fun. We're gonna have to do our brackets again, fellas. So let's get it ready. And we'll see who comes out on top this year. I forgot who won whose bracket won last year.
I think you had the better record, but I picked the eventual champion.
The eventual champion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're gonna have to increase the stakes this year, fellas. I don't know, man. Can't just it's got to be some type of risk reward factor,
Yeah,
but
I'm with it, man. Maybe I'll wear if I lose, I'll wear a cowboy jersey or cowboy hat or something. I am down here in Dallas, so it should be easy for me to grab.
Yeah, we'll definitely come up with something. So a lot of fun stuff coming up. Like I said, we got basketball is kind of, I think it's really going to continue to start to heat up within the next 2 months, especially after All-Star weekend, trade deadline coming up. NFL's coming to a close. Super Wildcard weekend, and before we know it, it'll be the Super Bowl. Want to say, what's that going to be? February 11th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
February
Yes, that
11th,
second week,
February,
that second
I
Sunday
think
in
so.
February.
second Sunday, and then we'll, then that'll come
And
to a
that'll be
close.
our officially our 1 year,
Your anniversary.
anniversary of the
Yeah.
podcast. So
Okay.
Yeah. Super Bowl
big
pre-show, brother.
big things coming that day for
Big-
sure.
Exactly. Super Bowl pre-show gonna be a lot of fun. But before we get off, obviously we're closing down. Do we have anything, Zay? What you got for us?
Not much. I guess people know at this point, like I do have my own podcast. That I do and so forth. It's called the Isaiah Kid Podcast. You can find it on any DSPs or any streaming service that you use to listen to any other podcast, just like any other podcast. So go check that out. Yeah.
And then you do yours by yourself, right?
I do it by myself. I do.
So guys, man, y'all gotta go check that out because I don't think people realize how hard it is to actually, do something and to come up with content and just go on your own,
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's
man,
tough.
y'all definitely go check that out for sure.
And yeah. And then as for me, you guys know I've been working on my rebrand. I will show you guys a logo soon, but the new podcast will be released to the public February 1st. Right. Rebrand trailer will be out soon. Just be on the lookout. I definitely give you guys a nice little sneak preview, but the rebrand is going very, very well. A lot of episodes, a few more good episodes coming along that I have to record literally tomorrow, two next week. So it's literally building and ramping up. So here, great for us sports content creators.
And you said what? My bad, Kenny. You said what was that date again? When you starting again?
February 1st.
February 1st. It'll be released February 1st.
Word. Once again, that's the break room breakdown. You already know you're gonna get a lot out of that. And what I love obviously is that he's gonna cover all the sports. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna get somebody.
Yeah.
He's gonna really kind of educate the sports fan on every sport because he's educated me. Watching some of his episodes has educated me some. So definitely big shout out on that. And then obviously we're gonna keep it coming. Rooted in Sports here every Tuesday.
A lot of stuff coming. Yeah,
we got a lot of stuff coming. Go follow us on Instagram. Once again, that's at Rooted in Sports. You can follow me personally, iSwan _0623. Can you give your Instagram handle real quick?
Tiberius 519.
And then Zay, go ahead, give yours.
I think it's Zay _ so Zay with two Y's _X.
And there it is. So definitely give us a follow. Go ahead and follow the Rooted in Sports YouTube page, and that's simply Rooted in Sports as well. Go ahead, like and subscribe to that. And yeah, man. And also, I just wanted to give a shout out to my wife, Amber. I know you probably watching. I just want to give a shout out to my wife. I just want to let her know I love her. All that good stuff. And just ask everybody continues to pray for us and everything. And I just want to let her know publicly that I love her. And I just love her to death. I just want the world to know. So, babe, if you listen, I love you. All that good stuff.
Yeah.
And look, here she go. This the other silent partner.
The silent partner. Shout out to silent partner. Yeah, we love you, and we love you, and we appreciate you.
No doubt, man. So
yeah,
and
yeah.
That's it, huh?
That's it. That's it for this week. We will be back in full effect next Tuesday to cover Wildcard weekend. Also, maybe give a couple basketball updates. We'll see. But NFL is all the rave right now, and it's coming to a climax. Right, we're getting the peaking season right now. So, yeah. So, and you guys
for that Super Bowl pre-show too, man, because it's gonna be major, man. 1 year anniversary is gonna be major.
1 year freaking anniversary, right? And some podcasts don't make it. I want to say, was it 30 episodes?
Wow. We on episode 45.
45. Yeah. So we've been going strong. So it's definitely going very, very well. So I'm excited. I hope you guys, everybody else is well, and we will see you guys next Tuesday.
Word.
Peace.
Peace out.
Peace.